It's time for some fun. It's a great time to read a great book and meet your next favorite author. And here with her reading recommendations, the one and only Rona Brinlee.
You're too kind.
The owner of BookMark in Neptune Beach. And Rona, always a pleasure. And I call this book season because we've got the hot weather now and you want to find that book and find your cool spots. So what do you got?
I love any season's book season, but I love sitting in the sun and reading a good book. The first one is Vigil Harbor by Julia Glass, and she's a National Book Award winning author for 3 Junes. And this is set just slightly in the future, just 10 years after the pandemic ends. Of course, we don't really know when that is, but 10 years after and people are still dealing with climate change and political divisions and terrorism, so all the things that are, you know, in the news today. But this is a small community on the coastline in Massachusetts, and 8 people's different stories. You get different stories and what their life is like. And then, you know, the classic 2 strangers come into town and upend everything, and you find out all the secrets and all the things that are bothering everybody. So
sounds like my kind of book.
8 stories for the price of 1.
Okay.
This one, David Gillam, Shadows of Berlin. I fell in love with him with A City of Women, and he always talks about World War II and things that are going on in Germany, and he's a screenwriter, so his dialogue is incredible, which you don't always find in a good book.
Right.
This one is set in 1955 in Manhattan, and it's a young woman who survived the Holocaust, but she had to do things she's not particularly proud of or wants to tell anybody to survive. And so it's that survivor's guilt and what's her story, and it all revolves around a painting that her mother did that they find in a shop in New York that lets everything come out.
You know how I am with historical fiction?
Yes, so you get 2 time periods, 1950s in New York and World War II.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then we've got Breathless. Take our breath away.
Take a deep breath. This is Breathless because this is a thriller set on the top of the 8th highest peak in the world.
Oh, I'm in. So yeah, one of the mountains.
It's Manaslu, Mount Manaslu in Nepal.
Okay.
Over 26,000 feet, and the young woman who's a climber, and the author is a climber.
Okay.
She's trying to revive her career as a climber and a writer, so she's following this internationally famous climber to the top of this mountain, and then people start dying. And it's unclear whether they're being murdered, were they really just accidents. And so one reviewer says, you know, as you're reading it, the air gets thinner and thinner and thinner, and you know, you have trouble breathing as you sort of wonder what's going to happen in the end.
So that book will make my heart beat pretty fast.
That book, yes. If you think running does it, this could do it for you.
Yes, that'll do it.
Just sitting quietly in the sun. And this is nonfiction. This is Ancestor Trouble, and it really talks to the question that we're all getting involved in ancestry and tracking. I actually got an ad.
Big.
Yeah, I just got an ad on my phone this morning for Mother's Day. Give your mother, you know, I don't know if that's a good idea or not. You could find some stuff out.
Oh, yeah. Well, you never know. Yeah, so that's very popular, the Ancestor Trouble.
Yes, and this author has an amazingly crazy family. She's got, you know, slave owners, she's got murderers, she's got a grandfather who purportedly married 13 times, and so she wants to find out what's going on with her family. And in the process of discovering that truth, she figures out why people are so smitten with this idea of figuring out who they are and where they come from. So
interesting.
Be careful what you ask for, I think.
Yeah, I like that saying. I use that one a lot.
This one I just couldn't resist at the time, Freezing Order. This is Bill Browder, and it's really about Putin and Russia and the corruption. And he used to be a huge investor in Russia, and then his lawyer got killed in prison, and he's responsible for helping promote the Magnitsky Act, which says that we can sanction Russia and we can sanction people and withhold and freeze their assets. And it's how Putin benefited from a $230 million tax fraud scheme. So it seems too timely to not bring up. So
got something for everybody. And then meet the authors. You got a couple down there.
Yeah, coming in person. B.A. Shapiro, she usually does art history books, but this one, Metropolis is a storage unit, and this is about 6 different people who rent. The only thing they have in common is they rent storage units. One's a lawyer and he has an office there. One's an immigrant trying to hide from, you know, ICE. And then there's a terrible accident and somebody falls in the elevator shaft, and then they all have to figure out what's going on, and all their secrets come out always.
Okay.
And finally, Admiral Stavridis, his new book, To Risk It All. This is 9 leaders in the Navy and the decisions they make to deal with crises and things like, we hope that you don't have those crises, but it will help us all make better decisions.
Well, wonderful. As always, your riveting recommendations just get better and better.
So alliterative.
Well, we're going to share this information on the website.
Great.
There's a lot here. And of course, that's at firstcoastliving.net.